here it is. So I like to put the whole outer surface, or the whole lateral surface of my pinky and this part of the palm just alongside or gently rested. And now I have some choices to make about contact with your head and whether my tension is going to be mostly from this ring down into the ring that actually transmits the weight and that gathers the support. Because that is always something I would hope that a person's brain would not bring their weight over a place where there is no capacity to a person's nervous system, a capacity to gather support. It's called falling. All right, so let's see. Do you mind if I touch the back of your sacrum?
Wherever.
Wherever? Okay, good. So for many people, and for you, the knobbies are not so prominent. So I have a choice of dig, or have you find the knobbies, or not dig, but just kind of softly search, but I have to have more or less an idea of where they are. So I'm not going to do either of those things because I, at this point, trust my perception of what it is. Plus, remember, if this ring, back to the skeleton, if this ring of the first rib has something to do, more or less, with the width here, then I can always use this to orient myself good enough, or I should say well enough. It is good enough. I've oriented myself, hopefully, well enough. So if you would. So let me do that. So more or less here, and then I'm just going to go down like that, and there I am.
So where on the back of the neck and shoulder area exactly on the skeleton are you? On what?
And here we have these rubber things, so maybe I'll, it looks like a cat's cradle thing. So I am, now there's flesh and tissue, right? But I am more or less here.
But what does here mean?
Oh, yeah, sorry, okay, I thought you were just doing the visual. Here means where the, above the first rib. Just settling, when I settle down to the top of the shoulder, what I really need first is the first rib. Right? We in our everyday way of speaking, or what I call colloquial everyday anatomy, we think of this as what do you call it? What do you call this in everyday? Trapezius, okay. Trapezius, good. So that would be, that's where I am. I land on the trapezius. Let's call these.
So you're not on a bony landmark. You're on a...
No, I am not.
Thank you.
Okay, good, yeah. I am over a bony landmark, but I'm not on the bony landmark. It's not pleasant at all to dig for a first rib here. One could find it on the side, but then you hit the brachial plexus. So I don't recommend doing, oh, that's actually great, because the color is also a bit more. All right, so if you just step forward a bit, that would be great. Is that sufficient, Elinor, what I said?
Yeah, perfect.
Good, okay, great. So here it is, here you are, and now may I touch your belly at this width? Yeah, she is. Now at what height? Well, I don't know, more or less somewhere below the waist, so here. And I can be higher than where I assume the sacrum is, because I also don't want to go and touch a person right away somewhere too close to the pubic bone. Plus, look how high that is. It's really pretty high. So definitely do not need to be below the, where are you here? There are the front parts, the front anterior superior iliac spine. And if I want to be more or less at the height of the sacroiliac joint somewhere, I would be higher. I'd be higher than these guys. Yeah, so actually I should be somewhere here-ish.
Is it right around our belly button? Right
It's
around-
below
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
Or just below it?
L2, isn't it? Yeah, just maybe just below the belly
Just
button.
below.
So you're lined up. Show us again on the skeleton one more time.
Absolutely. So in the back, I can touch bony or approximate touching the bony width of the posterior superior iliac spine. I make sure the two fingers are equal, and then I come around to the front. And another thing I can do is, if I hold both hands, I can make sure that the front hand isn't lower or higher. Yes, so I can orient where I put my front hand to a bony landmark of the anterior superior iliac spine, or maybe even better, I would orient it to the back hand. Because I'm standing on the side, so if I'm up here, I know I'm off, and if I'm down here, I know I'm off. And if I'm a little bit on or off, it doesn't really matter, because the road to precision is through more or less. Because that more or less, remember, this is static. We're about to have enough orientation landmarks to get ourselves moving. And the difference between driving, or usually what you do, well, actually, it's not true. We have two kinds of landmarks when we're driving. The ones that stay put, usually buildings and vegetation, and then we have the landmarks that move, which is like the cars around us. Anyway, good. So, one last time here. Here. Boom. Ooh, that's a little bit high. There we go. Okay, more or less. So somewhere in there, now I picture that the shift, I don't know which way she's filming or which way you're seeing, but the shift is going to be just a little down and lateral, and just a little down and lateral, not a lot. So let me set this in motion, and then I think, all right, not this, you. This is over there, this is you. Okay, ooh, and now, of course, comes the complexity of an actual human. And that is, so what I'm gonna do first is I'm going to not talk and just be with you. So it seems like this little shift is clear, it's direct. So that little shift is easy and direct and clear. And a shift in to my right and to your left isn't as clear, it isn't as direct. And you are searching for it, and therefore it is happening, and I am following it, the shift. But to your right, it's really clear. So now I actually have to bring in the landmark of the heel, because there's no way that I can make sense of what is happening here unless it's in relation to the heel, which is where the support is coming from. So I like to think of the heel as, many of you are probably old enough to remember those things on shoes, like the little metal. They were sort of kidney bean shaped. Well, I imagine like a horseshoe, like an actual, like a horseshoe, so that I can, it's not just like the heel, but really where on the heel. Where on the heel does it seem that to where on the heel do you easily shift? There. Now I could, with your permission, shift you further, may I? So this is where I would not shift you to. Because I'm already feeling, when I shift you there, you're on your right leg, but not only do you begin to turn, but I started sensing that as you were shifting more on your right leg, your head was beginning to tilt to counterbalance. Whereas for some people, of course, you wouldn't see that, but they would start holding in order to be there, in order to maintain themselves. Because they, if this was contact improvisation, and you were taking a person too far to stand, what would they do? They would just take it as an impulse to move. But most of our people that come to us don't come from that context, therefore they will stabilize. So what I get to avoid is eliciting stabilization responses. That's why I really like to keep it so small. And that to me, I think, is a really first moment where a person can feel, you know, in what we really value, rightfully so, is safety. Right? There's no demand being placed to them. There's a kind of joining. I'm joining you in how you stand on that leg, rather than I'm checking how well you can stand on that leg for how long. No, that was not coming. Okay. So first there's just this, yeah, here, it seems like we could, and of course, I am not doing this, which is not moving myself. So as always, it is, if I were to move this way slightly, would you come along? And we're well matched, because it's my left leg is my forever leg. And the interesting thing is that within that, it's like I'm getting your neck hot. We're building up heat in your neck. My hands get really warm when I work.
I didn't notice, it's all right.
Okay, sorry. Maybe the warmth as well.
What did you say, her neck, what? Did you say your
I
neck?
was really warming up her neck.
Oh,
With,
it's
I know.
hot.
I mean, we were just the contact, okay? Now, for those of you, would you turn around so we see your back?
I just said
So for those of you who are, you know, this is like some of the further nuances of it, the tips of my pinkies, or the pads, not the tips, but the pads, the most distal pads of my pinkies are, in a minute I'll show on the skeleton, are slightly speaking with the spine. And is it C7? Is it T1? I actually do not care. So that as we shift, I'm not directing with these pinkies, but I'm listening for whether this ring also turns a little bit. So I'm listening whether already, I think it was a little steering wheel, whether in that steering wheel is just shifting or whether that steering wheel is already turning a little bit. Hmm? And I'm assuming that all of the attachments, like, you know, the ribs and the shoulder girdle, will follow. Yeah. There you go. All right. Now, this maybe is more. Oh, and actually, as we clarify what you already do well, I feel like it gets less and less clear how to get to your left leg. So let's now shift something. Go ahead for a little walk, and then I'll ask you to sit down.